Mr. Transformers 96 here with another video where I'm going to talk about a newly shown Hot Toys figure. This time it is for a Toy Fair, as a Toy Fair exclusive, which I believe is for San Diego Comic-Con. And we have Stan Lee here, specifically Stan Lee from one of his cameos, this one being the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 cameo, which is really neat. It would be really cool if they did like kind of a line of Stan Lee cameo figures, even if they used the same head sculpt on them all. I think it would just be an interesting line. I wouldn't want them to devote too much time to it, but I think it would be just kind of interesting. And this is a really great figure from a pretty memorable cameo. It's definitely one that I enjoy, and it's really neat to see this. So this is something that I think when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be a huge figure, but from looking into everybody's comments on this figure, everybody seems to be just really over the moon for this one. So I do think this is going to be a popular figure, even though for me it's an easy pass for me personally, but I think it's still a neat design. So obviously this is in his kind of space suit where he's talking to the, like, I believe they're called the Watchers, and kind of expressing the things that he's seen in his other cameos, which was fun. This is kind of the only cameo of his that showcases that he is in other movies as a cameo, which is cool. Other than the Captain Marvel one, but that was in a more real world way, rather than this one is a little bit more like he is a Watcher himself and just providing information to the other Watchers, which I think was a really fun concept. As far as the figure goes, head sculpt wise, I believe it's the same head sculpt that came out for the Stan Lee figure that they did a few years back. As far as I'm aware, it's the same head sculpt. I would assume it has different paint though, but overall I think it's a really nice head sculpt. I think that it was pretty well received when it came out originally, and it still looks really good, I think, and it does look good in this representation of him. He's got a big smile, which I think is exactly how he should be represented, considering he always seemed to have a big smile. So I think it's a good expression for the figure as well. He does have the glasses that he does wear in the sequence, which are a little bit more stylized and futuristic. You can remove the dome of the helmet, which I think is kind of neat, and this suit itself is pretty plain, but it's what we saw in the movie. It's kind of cheesy, but that's how it was supposed to be, so I have no issue with that. The coolest thing about this figure, I think, is the little rock accessory that it comes with to have him sitting just like he was sitting in the movie. I think that that's a really neat effect, and it allows you to kind of recreate the scene almost, which I think is quite fun. So here's just a grand look at what you get with the figure. You get the figure himself, you get an extra backpack piece that can be attached, you get the dome piece which can be attached, and some interchangeable hands. You basically, it looks like you have like two relaxed palms, two hands that are like slightly more gripping, so you can kind of use those to hold the dome, I think, and then two hands where his fingers are kind of out, you can use them for him like kind of talking, I guess. You get the whole rock seat piece, and then you get a backdrop, which I think is really cool, and the backdrop is just kind of outer space. It's a really neat looking figure. I do like it, but personally, I don't think it's super necessary. It's relatively plain costume with a Stan Lee head sculpt, which is neat. I think that if you want a Stan Lee figure, you should get the regular edition Stan Lee figure, and if you want a cameo figure, I would think that you'd either want a set of cameo figures or just a Stan Lee figure. And until we see any more Stan Lee cameo figures, this is the only one. So I think it would be a little odd just to have your only Stan Lee figure be a cameo one. It just is a little strange. But if they do end up doing more Stan Lee cameo figures, then it would be a really cool set to have, and this would be a nice addition for it. But again, personally, not my thing. Just it's not something that I need to own. I did heavily consider getting that Stan Lee, this regular Stan Lee when that was first shown, and I ended up deciding not to in the end. But with this one, it's not really anything that tempts me, but I do like it, and I think it's very nice. And this is the first Stan Lee figure to be released from Hot Toys after his passing, of course. So it does mean a little extra because of that as well. But overall, it's a neat looking figure, and one that I think people that are really into it are really gonna love it. And they certainly went all out for it. It's not something that they just did the regular figure with like one set of hands or anything. They gave you a whole seat and the backdrop and everything, so they really committed to the figure, which is very cool. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this new Stan Lee figure. There was four figures shown that will be exclusives to this event, and those are the Nanotech Iron Man, which I think is a pretty lazy figure. Then there's the Scarlet Spider-Man, which I think is neat, but it's based on a game, so not anything that I'm too interested in myself. There's this Stan Lee figure, and then there's Two-Face. I am making a separate video discussing that new Two-Face figure. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this Stan Lee figure, and thanks so much for watching.